Hello everyone, my name is Ditskull, and I'm going to be teaching you a little bit of a guide of how to train your soldiers. Now, factions can use this to their advantage for PvP or PvE training. These are actual military training that I got from the internet, and also from videos and stuff like that, as well as one of my cousins, part of my family members, actually served in the Canadian Army. And he actually told me about the certain things he had to do, which is why I made this video as we speak. But other than that, let's get right on to it. The whole entire training will actually involve actual military training. So, if you wanted an actual military experience for your faction, or if you just want to train yourself to do these, here you go. Also note that this video will be used for you and our drill sergeants for a guide of how to properly do training. So other than that, first is the agility course. What you want is an area where you would train your soldiers for agility. In other words, their ability to run and stuff like that. I chose Camp McClintock, and what you want to do first, before you do anything, is make sure all mutations, if they have mutations, are depressed by making them use erratics. You will know when they're using mutations and when they're not using mutations, depending on their speed. If they're running extremely fast, then they're using mutations. If they're not running extremely fast, they're not using mutations. And if you want, you can make them over encumbered, so it's a little bit more of a challenge. But other than that, or just make them only walk, but other than that, what you want is to depress the mutations with radics, or if the player doesn't care about their mutations, you can use Radaway. But other than that, what you want to do is make them go through the whole agility course. There are certain areas where you could do the agility course, for an example, being the Pioneer Scout running courses you could use for an agility course. I chose Camp McClintock because it was a little bit of an easy one. Note that you cannot allow the recruits to use third person because it gives them a higher advantage. You'll know when they're using third person because they'll be not falling off or failing at all during the certain thing I did, being the wooden tightrope, as I like to call it. But other than that, no using third person. You can try and make it difficulty by making them over encumbered or something like that, and yeah. Now after the agility course is the second step, being the firing range. There are 3 different types of ranges, one being the medium range, the short range, and the large range. Every single one has a different distance. The long range is used for scope weapons that can see at longer distance. Medium range is for assault rifle range, in other words, your assault rifle having reflex sights or iron sights. Short range is for shotguns and pistols going in short range areas, such as almost near your character. Now, for the short range, I highly recommend build a firing range at your camp. I will have a video on how to do that. Short ranges are the best for shotgun and pistols, or melee. Medium range is great for people who have assault rifles, or rifles with iron sights, or a reflex sight, or something like that. And long ranges are perfect for scoped weapons. Now I know one place that's great for a scoped weapon location, in other words, a long-range location, being Clarksburg Shooting Club, being right here. Now, the UNR uses this as an actual training area. So by all means, if you want, use it for long-range weapons and stuff like that. Another thing that your soldiers are going to be trained, this is number 3, being explosives. They will have to learn how to throw a grenade perfectly at the enemy's location, as well as use grenade rifles properly and automatic grenade launchers and stuff like that. You can use this place as well for an explosive range. So what we usually do in this location is that there's 2 concrete platforms. And we use that for the grenade throwing, and also for the explosive range for automatic grenade launchers and grenade rifles. So you will see in a moment, as soon as I head to the concrete platform. See those 2 platforms? Right ahead. I'm about to head towards them. These are where you're going to want your soldiers to land your grenades. They need to land perfectly on the platforms. They cannot bounce off. They have to stay on it. They cannot bounce on the ground. They have to bounce on the concrete itself. If they bounce out of the concrete and don't perfectly land, it doesn't count. This little place with the target's 1 point. This, the one without the target's 5 points because it's difficult. Now, what you would usually give your soldiers is 5 grenades. And you wouldn't want them to use perks. You would know if they were using perks or not. But other than that, you technically want your soldiers to perfectly align their grenades and perfectly hit their targets. Now, you can also use the platforms for the grenade rifle range and automatic grenade launcher range and stuff like that. Also, if you'd like to test how good people are with Fat Mans, this is a perfect range to do that also. Now, the 4th thing we're about to talk about is first aid. This includes combat such as medical aid like Stimpaks, Radix, Right Away, Healing Salve, and also when to revive a player, and so on and so on. So let me get over the basics. When to use Stimpaks. Stimpaks and Healing Salve are very useful. Healing Salve doesn't do an animation like Stimpaks do. Healing Salve just heals you just like that, and is very cheap to make, which is why we highly recommend it for a combat aid item. Stimpaks are more valuable because they heal more of your HP and restore HP quicker. Now, when do you use Stimpaks and when not to use Stimpaks or Healing Salve? The proper way to use Stimpaks or Healing Salve is in an important situation, such as going against a Scorch Beast Queen, going against a boss, or PvP situations. Always use a Stimpak, Nuka-Cola Quantum if you like, or Healing Salve. Never use any aid items when going in an area with NPCs, like, let's just say the White Springs with a bunch of ghouls or something like that. Do not use your aid items because it's going to be a waste of resources, caps, and also just a waste of your aid. When to use Radix and Radaway. The only reason you have to use Radix or Radaway is if you're in a nuke zone, or if you're going against ghouls, or if you're in a highly irradiated area. Now, those are the only ways to gain a ton of radiation. Bethesda could add a brand new thing that would gain you a ton of radiation, but we don't know that yet, so we're gonna have to wait and see. But other than that, those are the best ways at the moment to use Radix and Radaway, or the appropriate usages of them, and the appropriate way to revive players. When to revive players is when in PvP, or in a Scorch Queen event, or something like that, or going against a boss, because you need as much firepower as possible against the enemy. When not to use revives is when you're going against an area with a bunch of ghouls, such as the White Springs. You don't need to revive them because it's going to be a waste. Just give up and technically respawn. That's all you have to do. Unless there's a legendary, then yes, revive. The last thing we like to train soldiers is gas mask usages. When to use a gas mask is in airborne locations, such as the Ash Heap. The Ash, if you want, train your soldiers in the Ash Heap in an airborne location, and the gas mask, like the one I'm using, is very valuable in those situations, and soldiers would like to use them most of the times. The last thing I'm going to tell you for this guide is the season finale, being the appropriate time to use all of the training that you've learned and use it in one, being the last test of your recruits. I would say a live action course. In other words, workshop claiming, PvP combat, something like that. You want to train your soldiers as good as possible, so I highly recommend use this. In the end, when the soldiers learned everything they've learned, you then train them into certain situations. The first being secure the area. You want to secure the area from certain hostiles. I suggest using a workshop for this, or go to an actual location, or if there's an event happening, such as Radiation Rumble, then do that, because those are securing the areas, and they're perfect for people who need to technically secure certain objectives. The second is when to use stealth boys. When you use stealth boys is when the enemy is using a long-ranged weapon, such as a blooded explosive laser rifle with a scope on it, or if the enemy is using VATS. If the enemy is using a scoped weapon that's explosive, or if they're using VATS, then yeah, 100% use a stealth boy. Or if they're using Tesla rifles, or if they're using stealth boys, then yes, use stealth boys. Another thing that I highly recommend is the appropriate time or usage of enemy KIA. In certain situations, including PvP, you will sometimes down enemies. This is what we call confirmed kill. When the enemy is down, what you want to do is immediately kill him because of the prestige perk system coming out very soon, which one of them is an auto-revive prestige perk, which is something you do not want to see when attacking an enemy. What you want to do is kill the enemy immediately, and if the person has an auto-revive, like the Power Armor auto-revive prestige perk, and he gets revived, you want to wait where he died so you can kill him again. Because you never know if he has one or not. Now note, you want to make sure the enemy is a KIA. For sure. Now, one thing's for sure, enemy KIAs are very important, including in real life, because you want to make sure if the enemy is killed or not. If they're not killed, then kill them. Because if they're still alive, they can be a threat. Another thing is clear out. Clear out is kill every single enemy on sight. That means kill all the enemies around the area and make sure you kill them all. So you would want to do that, and probably like going to a location and clearing out the area. The next is when is the appropriate time to use melee bashes. Melee bashes, when to use it and the appropriate time is if an enemy is in very close range. This means like you're literally chest to chest with each other, then yes, use melee bashes. Because that's the appropriate time to use a melee bash. If they're not anywhere near you, then use your gun, because a melee bash would be pointless. And last but not least, the last thing is workshops. Workshops is the best places to technically do training and stuff like that. I highly recommend it for training. But other than that, as for the locations you should train in, is New River, George Bridge West or East. Another location that's good for training is workshops. There are workshops all over the map. But other than that, there are other locations for training. I mentioned New River George for that. You can use your camp for a firing range or a training area. New River George is perfect for the agility course, same for Camp Venture. You can sort of use Camp Venture as a training area for firing range and stuff like that, or a live firing range. Sunny Top Skilands can be used as an agility course if you want an agility course, or want to find one. And there is one more location, being the area I'm located in, which is all the way in the top of the map in the Toxic Valley. as soon as my character finally fucking gets on the top of the map, being, I'll just say it, Clarksburg Shooting Club. And yeah, Clarksburg Shooting Club is a perfect place for actually training, if you'd like. The agility courses, like I mentioned in the video, if you want, go back and see it. But other than that, that's technically all you need to know about training. Also, for all drill sergeants, be rough on your recruits, do not be soft, because recruits will use that to their advantage. Be hard on them, in other words, if you need to, curse at them and stuff like that, so they can learn from their lessons and stuff like that. Other than that, though, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all enjoy this guide of training and a little train guide for the drill instructors and stuff like that. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, that's all you need to know for training. I hope you all enjoy, and I will see you all later. Bye.